Hey guys, Mike B. rolling again. I wanted to do a video on maintenance and a good way to save thousands of dollars of maintenance. Sometimes many thousands of dollars, preventative maintenance. There's a really good way you can save a ton of money on maintenance. It's called getting your hands dirty, breaking a sweat, getting in there and doing it yourself. Even if you have never worked on a semi in your entire life, no matter what the job is you're doing, there is a YouTube video out there of somebody recording themselves doing it, teaching you how to do it. I have learned so much from watching YouTube. Case in point, I had a Chevy pickup truck that had a 6-liter Vortec in it, and the check engine light came on. I ran it to the parts store. They said it was a knock sensor. I'm like, what the hell is a knock sensor? He's like, oh, I can sell you 2 of them. They're up under your intake manifold. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I bought 2 of them, went home, watched one YouTube video, and was like, that's easy. I can do that. Went right out there and did it. Never done it before. Didn't even know what the hell it was. Watched one video, learned how to do it. A couple of times I had to rewind the video. Well, how did he do this? You know, I'm telling you, man, anything. But the best way to save thousands and thousands of dollars every year is get well acquainted with a grease gun. I would advise you, if you have a truck or trailer, spend the money and get you a good DeWalt, Milwaukee, whatever, but a cordless, rechargeable grease gun. That thing is worth its weight in gold. A nice long hose on it, so you can set that dude on the ground and grab that hose and reach all the way up on your slack adjuster and just done. I mean, lickety split, done. Keep your equipment greased. I grease my truck every other week, minimum every other week. And if I get into a lot of rain, dust, bad weather, I'll grease it every week, just because that rain, even though grease isn't water soluble, that rain will wash that grease out and fill your parts with water and rust the shit out of everything. But you know, bushings, I've got I was watching on TikTok there, shout out Trucker Charlie Trucker. I was watching him, and he's greasing his truck the other day, and he's got a much older truck than mine, but my truck's 11 years old, and I've still got the original brake bushings, slack adjusters. I haven't replaced a single one. Keep them greased, keep everything well lubricated. They'll last for a really, really long time. Plus, when you're under there greasing your truck, you're examining everything. If something's out of the ordinary, out of, you know, hanging down where it shouldn't be hanging down, you're going to see it, and chances are catch it before it goes catastrophic, and save yourselves a ton of money. You know, while you're under there greasing the drive shaft U-joints, grab that drive shaft, give her a good shake. Does it wobble? Is there any play in that U-joint? Catch it early. Or you could be in a situation like me, just, what was it, 2 years ago? Maybe 3 years ago. I think it's about 2 years ago. I'm rolling down the road and I started to feel a little vibration shimmy, and I'm like, what in the world is that? And it didn't last. I checked my tires, nothing seemed loose. Kept going, thinking, well, maybe it's a carrier bearing or a U-joint. And just a few hours down the road, man, because if I'm on the gas, it was smooth. But I let off, you know, going a little bit of a downhill on the cruise, I'd get a shimmy. And a few hours down the road, man, all of a sudden, whing, there went my drive shaft. Gone, see ya, bye-bye. Called tow truck. I'm loaded, man, 120,000 pound. I had my 6-axle trailer at the time. They had to tow me in there and drop it, and I had to repower the load. I gave up the whole load because the guy bobtailed up and picked up my trailer and delivered it for me. And just putting that drive shaft on the road cost me $5,000. You know, if I would have caught that when I was greasing it, chances are I would have had, you know, if I would have felt any play, I would have had it fixed. But for some reason, that weekend, or maybe I went a couple of weeks without greasing it, thinking, oh, everything's fine. But no, it wasn't. When it's wore out, it's wore out. And you never know when it's going to hit that fine threshold that a part's wore out. So just regularly check your equipment. You know, little things like checking the oil in your transmission. If you see a seal on the back of your transmission or the front, if you see moisture, oil anywhere, it's leaking, it's coming out of somewhere. Check that. If it's a real, you know, small wet spot, just keep that in mind. Hey, I got a seal that's seeping. I'm going to need to get that changed sometime in the future. Remind yourself, next time I grease this truck, check the oil on that transmission. It's just a you know, half-inch ratchet plug. Break it loose on the side. If you could touch it, stick your finger in the hole, and if you could touch the oil, it's full. If you can't touch the oil, fill it up. It's not complicated. Back of the, both rear ends, same thing. You pull the plug. If you can stick your finger in that hole and feel oil, rear end's full. Don't worry about it. I fill them up till the oil literally starts coming out of the hole, and then I pull my fill tube out and shove the plug back in there. Golden, perfect level. But the rear ends, if you don't see any wheel seals leaking and you don't see moisture on your front pig where your differential comes in, if you don't see moisture anywhere, you don't have to check that rear end oil because it ain't leaking. But as soon as you start to see any kind of a seal seeping, or if you walk by your truck, you've been driving down the road on a hot day and you're walking by your truck, and a lot of you old hands are going to know all this, but this is for the newer guys. If you walk by your truck, hot rear end grease, 80 weight, 85, 90 weight oil has a very distinctive smell. Any truck driver who's ever had a leak can tell you with one whiff, I got a differential or something leaking, and it's the two differentials that take that heavyweight oil, or a wheel, the wheel hub on your trailer. When you walk by it, you'll smell it and be like, oh, I got a wheel seal leaking. Now you've zeroed in, go looking for it. Your trailers, they're easy. You just pull the plug on that little cap, and you don't even have to pull the plug, but in that glass, the sight glass around the plug, unless it's a sealed off unit, then you got to pull the plug and actually look in there. But most of them have a clear glass around the plug, and they've got minimum and maximum lines. And it's just as easy as, well, that one's a little low, I better pop the cap and squirt a little oil in there. I keep a hole right in the side box in case I need to dump some in one of my hubs. But just simple things like learning how to do your own oil change. I've got a barrel at home. Actually, I've got a 250-gallon pallet tote that used to have chemicals in it, and I opened up the lid on the top of it, and I keep it sealed, but then when I'm ready for it, I've got a lid, then I drilled a hole and put a lid inside of a lid so that I can set my big red funnel right in, just take that little lid off the middle, set my funnel in there, and then just, 5-gallon buckets, dump my used oil right up in there. And whenever that thing gets full, I call a guy and he takes it for free. I could probably even collect a few dollars if I wanted to really do the research about it. But if you've got, I think it's over, if it's more than 150 or a 200-gallon threshold, there's guys that'll come out there with a pump truck, stick it right in that tank, suck all that oil out, take it for free. I only have to empty that tank maybe every 4 or 5 years. I don't do all my own oil changes, but I do a lot of them. Little less so now than I used to. A lot of times it's just as easy while it's in the shop getting something fixed to tell him, hey, go ahead and service the truck while you got it in there, just because I'm lazy and I don't want to do it myself. But no, that's a way to save a ton of money. Check your belts. If your belt's on the inside of the belt, especially your serpentine belt, if you start seeing the where you got the ribs on the inside of the belt, if you start seeing cracks across those, that belt's getting age on it. Plan on replacing that. And it's not that complex. Not that complex at all. And no matter what engine, make, model, truck, doesn't matter. There's a YouTube video out there that will show you exactly, get specific in your search terms. How do you change a belt on a 15-liter ISX Cummins year 2014, or whatever engine you've got. And there'll be a video specifically about that. I just about guarantee it. But so change your own oil filters. On top of carrying extra fuel filters in the side box, and I carry a little 1-gallon gas can with diesel in it. So if I ever gel up on the side of the road, or my filter clogs up, like I get a bad batch of fuel, because I change my fuel filter every time I change my oil, so I typically never have to change it. Every once in a while, you'll hit a fuel stop out there that's just got shit fuel, and it'll just cap out your fuel filter, and you're building pressure, you're losing your. Of course, I got a full gauge package, so I can see my fuel filter pressure. But that sucker will start climbing and be like, oh, next thing you know, you're feeling noticeable power, and you see that red light come on your gauge. Well, son of a bitch, fuel filter's clogging up. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, man. I got a filter, a wrench, diesel, everything I need. Carry it with you. But doing your own maintenance can save you a ton of money, not just on the labor of doing the maintenance, but the catching of potential breakdowns, preventative maintenance, the catching of something before it gets to the point that it flies apart, and fixing it. It's much easier to fix something before it flies apart than it is to go out and walk up and down the interstate looking for a drive shaft. You know what I mean? Would have been a lot easier just to pull into a truck stop and say, hey, I need a U-joint change. And they just pull it in there. It takes them, 45 minutes, whatever. They slap a U-joint in there. You're good to go. But and a whole hell of a lot easier, less stressful. But doing your own maintenance, Don't be afraid of it. Get you just a standard, decent tool set. You don't need a bunch of fancy tools. Now, I'm not advocating trying to rebuild your own engine in your driveway. You're going to need some special knowledge before you do that. But, if it's just oil changes, belts, you got a hose leaking somewhere, pull it apart, change it yourself, go to town, get your parts, save you a ton of money. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Don't be afraid to, bust your knuckles and learn how to throw a wrench and cuss like a good truck driver. We all do it. But it'll save you a lot of money in the long run, I promise you. Y'all be good out there. Keep the comments and the questions coming, and we'll catch you later.